So let's review the project scope. For this chapter, we're gonna develop a project called My Weekly Budget App. So let's review the features. The user can add a budget for the week. Then we're gonna add expenses into the list and we're gonna track how much we are spending and the remaining budget. Once we spend 50% of the budget, we're gonna print the remaining budget with a yellow color. Once we spend 75%, print the remaining budget with a red color. So let's review the project. This is going to be the project. Yeah, you can see when we open this, it will ask what is the budget for this week. If you click here on cancel, you can see this is going to reload, asking again. So we need to add a valid budget. If you add OK here, it's going to ask again. If you add a 0 right here, it's going to ask again. So we need to add a valid budget right here. I'm going to add 500 for this week. And you can see that we have budget right here and we have left 500. So once we start adding expenses, this is going to be updated. So let's say that we are going to add transportation and we're going to add $200. We're going to click here on add and you can see we have added right here. We have transportation and we have $200. The remaining was updated and now we have only $300 left. If you try to submit the form empty, it's going to print this error. There was an error. All fields are mandatory. So if you remember, I say that once we spend 50% of the budget, this is going to print in a different color. So we're going to add food and we're going to add $100. Add, and now you can see we have transportation and food, and the remaining budget is printed in a yellow color. So let's add another one. Let's say that we add a book, and let's say that we add $100 again. Click here on add, and now you can see we have 3 different items into the expenses list. And here on the bottom we have the remaining budget. Since we already spent more of the 75% of the budget, this is going to be printed in red. So we can continue adding more and more and more stuff. So we're gonna add something like internet and we're gonna spend $100. We're gonna click here on add and now you can see the budget. You can continue adding more if you want. So this is going to be a way that you can track your budget. So if you add something like dinner and you add 50, click here on add and now you can see that you pass the budget. A really nice project where we are going to practice everything that we have learned so far in this course. So let's continue working in the next video. So let's start a new project. In the course materials for this chapter, you will find this folder, week budget, and we're gonna open this into Visual Studio Code. Open the index, right click, and open this with Live Server. So this is going to be the interface for this project. You can see we have My Weekly Budget App. And you can add your expenses here on the left. And here we have the list. We're going to have a list with all the expenses. Also the budget and the money that is left from this budget. So let's take a look at the HTML. You can see, for example, we have this form. It has this ID, add expense. Then we have a form group and we have the name with the expense and then the amount of money and this button. Then we have this secondary and here we have the list and we have the expenses. Right here is going to be the list and also a div with the budget and the money that is left from this budget once we start adding more and more expenses. This one, the second one, is going to be updated. In the last project that we developed, we created everything using prototypes. Then we moved everything into classes. This chapter or this project is going to be made using classes from the beginning. So let's open this and I'm gonna open the JS folder. I'm gonna open app.js and we're gonna create 3 sections. We're gonna call these variables and I'm gonna call another one called classes right here. So we're gonna have classes, variables, and at the bottom we are going to have the event listeners. So event listeners like this. So first we're gonna select the form. You can see, I'm gonna close this. You can see that we have this form that is called add expense. So we're gonna open the app.js, and I'm gonna create a new const variable. We're gonna call this one add expense form is going to be equals to document query selector, and I'm gonna add expense. So then on the event listeners, I'm gonna create a function. Event listeners, like this, and we're gonna execute this function like this. And the first event listener that we're going to listen is going to be the expense form, but also DOM content loaded. So we're gonna create both. We're gonna create add expense form, add event listener, and it's going to be submit, and we're gonna pass the event. And right here I'm gonna add prevent default. So this is going to listen for all the submissions. Right here I'm gonna create another one. I'm gonna add something like document add event listener. This is going to be DOM content loaded, and it's going to be a function like this. And first, when this page loads, we're gonna print a prompt window. So right here on the variables, I'm gonna create two variables, budget and user budget. So they are global because they are going to be available in all the program. So finally, before we finish, I'm gonna add app init right here, and this is going to be when a new expense is added. So right here we're gonna add this variable user budget. It's going to be equals to prompt, and I'm gonna add single quotes. I'm gonna add what, and I'm gonna escape the single quote. What's your budget for this week? And that value from the prompt is going to be assigned into the user budget. And this will ask the visitor the weekly budget, like this. So save this. You can see it's going to print, it's going to display what's your budget. So something here, for example, if you left this empty and you click OK, it's going to grab that value. So we're gonna validate the user budget, and it's going to be like this. We're gonna add if the user budget is equals to null if they don't add anything, or the user budget, we're gonna add like this. And I'm gonna show you why I'm adding different events or different comparisons. So if the budget is null, we're gonna add window, that location, that reload, and this is going to load this part again until the person adds a budget. So open the app, and if you click here on cancel, this is going to be null, and it's going to reload the window. You can see it's asking again, cancel again, and you can see that it will reload the page and it's going to ask again. If you click here on OK, you are going to submit this as an empty string. So we're going to add something like, or the user budget is equals to nothing. Also is going to reload. Now if you click here on cancel, it's going to reload. If you click on OK and you didn't add anything, it's going to reload again. Finally, if you add a budget of 0, it's going to allow you. So we're going to add another or, user budget is equals to 0. Then it's going to reload again. So if you click on cancel, if you click on OK, or if you submit a 0, this is going to continue asking to add a budget. So let's say that we add 500, and now you can see that we can access this app. So this part is done. In the next video, we're gonna continue working with the else statement. So let's continue working in the next video. So let's continue working with this project. You can see in the last video we make this validation. So at this point on the else statement, budget is valid. Then instantiate the budget class. At this point the budget is going to be valid. We haven't created the class, but we're gonna create this here on the top. I'm gonna create class and I'm gonna give the name budget like this. We're gonna create a constructor because once this instantiate, we need to pass this budget. So this is going to take a budget. This is going to return, or we're gonna add the properties. This budget is equals to budget. And we're gonna create another one that is called budget left. So this one is going to be updated every time that the user add an expense. Is going to be added and it's going to display the value right here. So this is going to be equals to this dot budget, at least when we are starting the project. And you can also pass, for example, this budget like this, but I think this way is going to be much more cleaner. Also, you can add, for example, number right here, because the value can be interpreted as a string. So we're going to use number, and this is going to convert this value into a number. So now we have this class budget, and it's taking this budget. In the constructor, we're going to pass right here, we're going to pass user budget, and we're going to also instantiate the class. So something here, yeah, you can see that I added this class called budget. We're going to use this class, and it's going to be right here. And I'm doing this because I want to have this budget object available in all the program. But right here is where I'm going to instantiate this, because if you add something like, for example, here on the top, budget equals to new budget, at this point we don't have the user budget. It's right here when the DOM is loaded, where we ask the visitor what is the budget. So that's why I'm creating the variable, but it's empty. And right here I'm giving the value. So it's going to be equals to new budget. And if you remember, this takes in the constructor the budget, which is going to be this class, or this variable, sorry, this variable. So from here you can add console.log budget, and this is going to print the budget and also the budget left. So save this, add 500, open the console, and open the console, inspect, and open the console. Well, first we need to fix this. You can see add expense form, line 38. So we're gonna open this. Yeah, it says event listeners. It should be add event listener. Save this. Now we're going to add 500 here, and now you can see it's going to create the object with budget and budget left. So this budget is going to be available in all the program, but we create the variable and it's empty. Here is where we are giving the value, and it's going to be a new object of the budget class. Then right here we're gonna instantiate, and we're gonna use instantiate the HTML class. We're gonna create a new class that is called HTML, and right here I'm gonna create everything related to HTML is going to be added right here. You can also instantiate this in the right here outside. I think it's going to be better. Const, we're gonna add a comma right here. HTML is going to be equals to new HTML class like this. We need to create this class, and yet we're gonna add class. It's going to be HTML. It doesn't have any constructor or anything. It's going to be empty, but I'm going to add the methods. So right here we have this HTML, and I'm going to pass this HTML right here, and we're going to add a dot. I'm going to call this method insert budget, and this is going to insert the budget into the HTML right here. So we need to pass this budget like this. Then we need to create this method. So it's going to be right here. Insert the budget when the user submits it. So we're gonna call this insert budget, and we're gonna pass, or it's going to take the amount argument. So before we insert the budget, if I open the index.html, if I scroll a little, you can see that we have this span ID that says total, and also this span that says left. So right here I'm going to add, right here, I'm gonna add another comma, and I think I'm gonna move this outside because I want to have the variables better organized. So instantiate the HTML class. Yeah, something like this is going to work better. So we're gonna add a variable called budget left, budget total equals to document that query selector, and we're gonna add a span, and we're gonna add total. Then we're gonna use budget left, it's going to be equals to document, again query selector, and we're gonna use a span left. So now we have these two variables, budget total and budget left, and we're gonna use this to insert this budget into the HTML. Insert into HTML. Budget total, and we're gonna add dot inner HTML equals to template strings, and we're going to pass this amount. And we're gonna make a copy of this, it's going to be really similar, and in this case it's going to be the budget left, and it's going to be inserting this amount. So we're gonna add 500 here, and yeah, you can see it's printing object. If you take a look here, for example, here I'm passing the budget, but at this point I'm gonna console.log the amount right here, amount, and let's add 500 again. You can see that this is going to pass the budget of object because when we instantiate this, we have the value right here. So we need to pass one of these, a dot, and then budget. So we're gonna add 500, and now it's going to print the budget 500, and the left is going to be 500 also because we haven't added any expense, but we're gonna start adding expenses, and this one is going to be updated. So definitely is looking nice, and I'm gonna remove this. So now you can see if I add 500 here, it's going to print the budget and also the amount that is left. So in the next video, we're going to start working with this add your expenses here. So let's continue in the next video. So let's start working with the form that we have here on the left. If you remember, we already added this event listener. So we're going to remove this. And we're going to read the values from the budget form. So we're going to have something like this, cons, and we're going to have expense name is going to be equals. And here on the form, for example, if I scroll a little, you can see that this ID for the expense name is called expense, and for the amount is called amount. So we're going to open the app.js, read the input values. We're going to add cons. Expense name is going to be equals to document dot query selector, and we're going to add expense that value. It's going to give that value from the input. Then const amount is going to be the document query selector, and we're going to pass amount as the selector. We're going to use value to access this. Then we're going to check if the expense name is empty or the amount is also empty. We are going to console log something like invalid, and in the case that both have something, we're gonna add console.log correct. Just to make a quick test, we're gonna add $1, and let's try to submit this without any values. We're gonna click it on submit. You can see that the value printed was invalid. It really flash it really fast. So we're gonna add prevent default, something I forgot to add. So then we're gonna add $1. So let's say that we want to submit this empty. Try to click here on add, and it's going to print invalid. Add something here, something like this. You can see it's going to print correct. So right here we need to call the instantiate of the current instance of the HTML class. We're gonna add HTML, and we're gonna create a new method that is called print message. We're gonna pass two different items in this one. There was an error. It's going to be the message. All the fields are mandatory, and we're gonna pass a class, alert danger. This project is built using Bootstrap, so alert danger is a class that you will find on Twitter Bootstrap. So we need to write this print message. So we're gonna scroll to the top, and right here I'm going to add displays a message, correct or invalid. We're gonna create also the correct message in just a little. So this is going to take a message and also a class name. We're giving the class. You can see we're passing also alert danger. So right here I'm gonna create a new const, and we're gonna call this one message wrapper. It's going to be equals to document create element, and we're gonna create a new div. So from here we're gonna start adding some properties into this new div. We're gonna add a class list dot add, and we're gonna add several classes. Text center, so this is going to center the text. Also alert, this is a Bootstrap class, and also we're going to pass this class name. So this is going to create three different classes, or this is going to add three different classes into this div. Then we're going to add a text inside this div. Message wrapper, append child, and we're gonna add document dot create text node, and we're gonna pass the message. This message here, in this case, this message is printing there was an error, but we can also use this method to pass something like valid or something like that with a different class. Also, we're gonna do that in upcoming videos. Finally, we're gonna use insert before to insert this. If I open the code, I'm gonna add $1 right here. If you inspect this, you can see that we have two main classes. Right here, you can see we have content, and we have primary right here. So we're gonna use that. So we're gonna use document, insert into HTML. We're gonna add a document dot query selector, and we're gonna pass primary. Then a dot, insert before, and remember insert before takes two parameters. First one is going to be message wrapper, and second one is going to be the node reference. In this case, we already have this add expense for, so we're gonna use this as the reference. So save this, let's add $500, and try to submit this empty. And now you can see there was an error. All the fields are mandatory, and it's printing this because we're using some Twitter Bootstrap classes. Here on the error, we're passing alert danger. This is going to print the alert in red color. And right here, scroll to the top, we're passing text center and alert, and passing also that class name. So you can see that this is going to be all the time right here. So right after this, I'm gonna create a set timeout function. Clear the error from the previous function. We're gonna add set timeout, and we're gonna call a function. This is going to remove this after 3 seconds. Of course, you can increase that value or remove that value. And we're gonna, you can see that we are adding this class alert. So we're gonna use this class as a selector, query selector, and we're gonna use primary and alert, and we're gonna use remove. So this is going to remove the alert after 3 seconds. So let's add another budget, 500. Try to submit this without anything. It's going to print the alert. After 3 seconds, the alert is gone. You can also add something like add expense form and reset. So if the user tries to add something like this, only one field, and add, you can see there was an error, and it's going to remove everything from the form. But of course, this is up to you. In this case, I'm gonna comment this line. So in the next video, I'm gonna scroll to the bottom. We're gonna start working with this else section of this else portion of the code, and we're gonna start adding the expenses into the list. So now we're validating that the user doesn't submit this form empty. In this video, let's see what actions we are going to perform when the user adds the expense name and the amount. Right here, we're going to add the expenses into the list. So we're gonna use again HTML. We already have this instantiate here on the top. You can see it's right here. So we're gonna call the method add expense to list, and to list like this. And this is going to take the expense name, and also is going to take the amount like this. So we're passing these both, the information from the fields, into this new method. So right here, I'm gonna open the class, and right here, I'm gonna add a new method. So if you remember, this one is taking the name and also the amount. So we're going to add a comment right here, displays the expenses from the form into the list like this. So we need to write all the contents from this. And first I'm gonna create a const. And if you take a look here on the HTML, I already added a list. So you can see we have a div with the ID expenses, and it has this UL. So we're gonna target these expenses and also this unordered list. So it's going to be expenses list is going to be equals to document query selector. So it's going to return the first match, expenses UL. Then each expense with the amount is going to be an li, because we already have this unordered list. So inside we're going to add an li. Const li is going to be equals to document, and we're gonna create an element. We're gonna create an li. Then we're gonna start adding properties into this li. We're gonna add a class name, and we're gonna add a bunch of different classes because Bootstrap has a lot of classes when you are trying to do something. So we're gonna add list group item, dflex, because it's going to change this to display flex. We're gonna add this, justify content between, and I'm gonna add align items center like this. So we have 5 new classes right here. So then we're gonna add insert into the, we're gonna create a template. And right after we're gonna insert into HTML. So we need to add li inner HTML equals to quotes. And right here I'm going to add the name. This is going to display the name of the expense. And then we're gonna create an span. And we're gonna use the batches that come in Bootstrap. So inside the span, we're gonna pass the amount. So you can see the name is going to be passed, it's going to be added right here. If you remember, right here when we insert the expense, we're passing the expense name from the input, but also we're passing the amount. Both values come from the form, so they are going to be added into this li. In the case of the expense name is going to be added into li, the amount is going to be added into the span. So we need to add some extra classes. I'm going to add batch primary, batch field, and this is going to give a nice styling to these expenses. Then we're going to insert this. We're going to expenses list, and we have the variable right here, and we're gonna use a dot, append child, and we're gonna pass this li. So we're gonna add 500 budget, and let's say that we have food, and we're gonna add an amount, let's say $100 for this week. We're gonna add this, and you can see we have food, and we have also the 100. You can add the $sign right here before this other $sign. So let's add a budget of 100, and let's add transportation $40. Add this, and you can see we have the $sign right here. And all of these classes that we added in this list group and also these badges are giving this nice styling that we have here. So Bootstrap is the framework that I'm using to create this interface. So these are Bootstrap classes. So you can see that we are adding these expenses. We need to subtract this from the budget that is left. So in the next video, we're gonna write this function. So let's continue working in the next video. So let's continue working with this project. You can see that we are adding expenses into the list. In this video, we're going to add, for example, this $40, and we need to subtract this from the budget that we have left. So let's open the project, and you can see right after we have this add to expenses to the list. Right after this, I'm gonna call another method that is called track budget, and we're gonna pass the amount. So this is going to read this 100, and it's going to subtract the money that we're passing right here. So we need to write this function. Scroll to the top, and this should be inside the HTML. Subtracts expense amount from budget. And it's going to be track budget. We're gonna subtract. We're gonna pass also the amount right here, and this one is going to call another method that is going to be in this budget. So everything that is related to the budget is going to be here. So we're gonna write a method that is going to subtract from the budget, and we're gonna call this one, well, subtract from budget. We're gonna pass an amount, and we're gonna return this, and we're gonna return the budget that is left. So this dot budget left, and we're gonna subtract to the current amount the new amount that we're passing. So this is going to return the new budget. And scroll to the bottom, and right here I'm gonna call that method, and we're gonna add const, and we're gonna add budget left $, and we're gonna add budget. Budget, remember, is the main class, the main object. We have this in the global scope, and the one that is instantiate this, and then we're gonna call this other method, this method that we already created, and we're gonna pass the amount. Scroll to the bottom, and right here we're gonna subtract from budget, and we're gonna pass the amount. So this is going to take the current budget, and it's going to subtract every time that we add a new expense into the form. So you can test this, and you can add console.log, and you can pass this budget left in $. Of course, it will change based on the currency. So we're gonna add, for example, 500, and let's open the console. And I'm gonna add, for example, food, and I'm gonna add $200, and you can see the budget left now is 300. So we need to write or pass this 300 into this left. So we're gonna remove this, and we're gonna, if you remember, we added this budget left variable, so we can pass this budget left dot inner HTML, and we can pass this as template strings. And we're going to add the budget left in $. So right here I'm going to add the semicolon at the end, Let's add $300. And let's add food, and we're gonna add $100. Add. And now you can see we have 200 right here. So this code is going to grab, or is going to subtract from the budget or everything that you pass, $20, $30, $40, is going to subtract from the budget that is left. And using this function in HTML and passing the quantity is going to update this also. So you can see that I named this track budget. The idea here is, for example, and if the budget is 300, and then we add another one, transportation, and we add another 100, now the budget left is going to be 100. When we reach the 50%, I want to change this from color from green to yellow. And when we reach 75% expended, we're going to change this to red color. So right here, I'm gonna add a comment, check when 50% is spent. And we're gonna add an if. And I'm gonna add 2 parentheses. And right here, I'm gonna add budget. So we're gonna check the main budget that we have here is going to be budget.budget. Well, let me first remove everything from here. I'm gonna add console.log budget. So save this, and if you add $400 and then you add food right here, it's at 20, you can see that we have budget. It says budget and 400. So right here, I'm gonna write a function that in this case is going to check when 20% is left. So we're gonna write an if statement, and this is going to update and change these colors. So we're gonna do something like this. If budget.budget, because if you remember, the main object is called budget, and one of the properties, or the property that contains the budget, is 400. So we're gonna use budget.budget is divided by 4. This is going to return the 25%. In case that this result is greater than the budget left in dollars, so that means that we are already in the last 25% of the budget. So we're gonna add some classes and remove others, and we're gonna do this in this video. Then we're gonna create an else if statement. In this case, this is going to be really similar, but we're gonna check for the 50%. So in this case, we need to make the division between 2. So this one is going to check for the 50%, and this one is going to check for the 25%. Here I'm missing one parenthesis, so it should be added right here. So then I'm gonna remove this, and here we have this budget left. We're gonna change the classes right here. So budget left is going to check the span. If you take a look here on the design, we can check this, and you can see that we have the span right here. So we need to use some traversing in order to go from this span into this div. So we're gonna use parent element and another parent element. So we're gonna use budget left dot parent element dot class list, and we're gonna remove the classes. At this point, we may have this alert success. You can see we have alert success right here. So we're gonna add alert success, but also we're gonna remove other one that is called alert warning, because maybe this class may exist, because this is going to be the class that is going to be added in this part. So we're gonna remove both classes in case that any of these exist. So we're gonna copy this, paste, and right here, instead of remove, we're gonna add, and we're gonna remove this class. And alert success, we're gonna add alert danger. This is going to print a red color as the background. Then we're gonna make something similar to the else if statement. In this case, we always are going to remove the alert success. This may be the only class that is going to exist at this point. So we're going to remove that. And we're going to add alert warning. So you can see that when we reach the 50%, we're going to remove alert success, which is going to be this green color, and we're going to add the yellow color. In the other hand, when we reach 25% left, we're going to remove any of these because any of these may exist at this point. And we're going to add alert danger, which is going to print this as a red color. So make sure that you save everything, open this project. We're going to add, for example, $100 is going to be fine. So let's add food, maybe 30. Click on add. You can see we added the food. The left is 70. At this point, this code haven't been executed because it's going to execute when we reach 50% and when we reach 25%. So let's say that we add transportation and let's add maybe $30. Add. And now you can see this change from the alert success into alert warning because we already passed the 50%. Finally, let's say that we want to buy a book. We add 20 extras. Add, and now you can see now this is in red color. So in this example, you saw that we went from alert success into alert warning and finally alert danger. So this code was executed, alert warning. But maybe you add something like $100 and you add food and you add 80 right here and you click on add. This is going to pass from the alert success that is going to be right here into alert danger. That's why we are using two different classes right here. In this case, we are only using one. So there is something that we have left. If I scroll a little, you can see that we have this print message. So we're gonna copy this page right here, and instead of having this error, we're gonna add something like added. And we're gonna use added with 3 dots. We're gonna add alert success like this, and this is going to run the print message method. This takes the message and the class name, and save this. And let's say that we add a budget of 100. So next we're gonna add food 50. Click here on add. You can see it says added, and it's going to remove the message, but you can see that the form wasn't cleared. So that's why I added this method earlier. So let's save again, $100. So let's add a book. It's at 20 right here. We're gonna click here on add. You can see it's added. 3 seconds, it's going to remove the alert and it's going to reset the form. And now this is working and this is looking great. So you can see that our code looks more cleaner because we have a better separation between the classes, the different methods. And here on the bottom we have the variables and the different event listeners. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this project. This was one of my favorite projects in this course. So in the next chapter, we're going to start learning about Ajax, Ajax and JSON, Ajax and REST APIs, also a project using Ajax. So let's continue working in the next chapter.